Welcome. You are listening to the Play Big Queen podcast. This is for you if you are a woman who is an entrepreneur, business owner, professional, leader, or someone who is deeply committed to personal growth, self-improvement, transformation, and living authentically. This is especially for you if you have an invisible disability, whether you are diagnosed, undiagnosed, self-diagnosed, or late diagnosed, and you are working on reclaiming your neurodivergent identity, rebuilding confidence, learning what works for your unique brilliance while breaking free from small people-pleasing conditioning. If you are a visionary change maker interested in advancing your leadership and creating success on your terms, and you want to leave a legacy, if you are navigating disability or neurodiversity as an individual or as an ally, and you are looking for a supportive and inclusive environment to thrive, then this is for you. I am your hostess, Kate Bailey. I am the Play Big Queen. My name is my title and a command for all women. Play Big Queen. I invite you to claim this title for yourself and coronate your Play Big self too, if it serves you. I am a business and embodiment mentor working with women who are ready to rise the fuck up and be your bold, beautiful, sexy ass self, start and grow your big, bold vision, and claim that you too get to have your boldest desires. I am the creatrix of Kate Bailey LLC, which provides coaching services, educational courses, products, and experiences that promote success in neurodiversity advocacy, women's empowerment, embodiment, entrepreneurship, and business to serve women on their transformational journey. To learn more about my company offerings and to get on my email list, go to xxxkatebailey.com. If you would like to learn more about my work, my personal values, my mission, and my community, make sure you catch the last 5 minutes of this episode to go deeper and learn so much more. On this podcast, sometimes we will have guests. Sometimes I'll do solo episodes, but every single time you listen, you will expand. So get ready. It's a new era for women on the Play Big path. Long may we reign.
Welcome back to Play Big Queen, the podcast where we embrace our brilliance and create success on our own terms. Today, this is a special celebration episode because it's my birthday this week. On March 12th at 1333, your girl will be 44 years brilliant this week. In this episode, we're going to do something very special. I am going to share with you some of my birthday portal prompts that I ask myself most years. And I'm going to read aloud to you my most honest birthday reflections. This episode is about reflecting on the journey so far, celebrating the magic that we've manifested in the Play Big Queen universe, and the $1 million moves I'm bold enough to take and invite you into for this new, exciting chapter of Play Big Queen. So pour your favorite celebration drink and let's toast to our collective growth, our power, and the limitless possibilities ahead of us. Pleasure pad your environment with anything that makes you feel like the queen that you are. Light candles, put on some soft silk pajamas, or if you're driving, maybe you lean your driver's seat back a notch or two so you can really get into the vibe of this episode, which is all about a Play Big Queen's year in review of intentional manifestation, bold action, and the expansive energy that propels us forward. Now, I want to clarify something and be totally transparent. Am I having $1 million years yet? No. But am I making power moves that are setting me up for serious wealth and legacy building? Fuck to the yes. Some of the $1 million moves that I've been making right now with intention are owning my niche and my authority in that niche, building scalable income streams. I'm working on mastering organic social media marketing back in college for digital audiences, where I'm learning how to track KPIs and do marketing with UTM data. I'm leveraging what I know about luxury branding to further build out my strategy for high ticket branding. I'm doing podcasting and thought leadership expansion, obviously, through this episode. And I'm crafting a legacy-driven business model. Also, $1 million moves that people don't necessarily identify as $1 million moves. I protect my time and energy like a CEO. CEO stands for Chief Energetics Officer. I'm making decisive, high-value choices about where my energy goes, and I'm prioritizing CEO-level activities like leadership and embodiment work, not just busy work. And my long-term goal isn't just wealth in the form of million-dollar years or even million-dollar months. It's legacy, making moves towards building something that creates a lasting impact and generational wealth. Doing all of this while aligning with personal sovereignty, rejecting hustle culture for the long game, and scaling intelligently. Instead of selling out and burning out for the money, I am playing big on my own terms, crafting a business that supports my health, my energy, and my wealth goals without conforming to neurotypical expectations. And when I look at my goals, I don't even look at them like million-dollar years or million-dollar months. I look at them like my impact, legacy, leadership-driven future is already in motion. So Wednesday, March 12th, I'm going to be 44. Yay for angel numbers. And I want to show up in this episode in a way where you get an inside view into my process for my reflections every year, right? So typically what I do is I take some time to just be at my computer typing my stream of consciousness, like literally the first things that come up when I ask myself some reflection questions. And I'm always surprised at the things that come up. And there's so much juice in there that I know if I just like share my innermost thoughts of my diary and journal with you, that maybe there'll be some self-truth recognition in what I'm sharing. And what I'm really hoping for is that my hindsight at 43 will be your foresight on your play big journey. And so the first question I like to ask myself as I start to enter the birthday portal is pretty general. And I just let myself free flow with whatever comes up, right? So the first question is, what were the biggest lessons that I learned at 43? So I was late diagnosed as someone who identifies as ADHD and multiply neurodivergent. And at 43, the biggest lesson I learned is how much self-awareness, self-knowledge, self-respect, self-acceptance, self-care, self-love, and self-advocacy in practice is critical to my authentic growth in a world that a lot of the time feels like it just moves too fast for me, or it feels like it wasn't designed with me in mind. I spent a lot of years learning about so many different things, so many different processes and systems and schools of thought. I went outward to learn a lot. In some ways, I'm still going outward to learn more because I am going back to college at this age. But when it really comes down to it, some of the biggest lessons I learned is that I needed to go inward more. Or more specifically, like in a way, I needed to soften the gaze of my soul so more could become illuminated in my field of consciousness, if that makes sense. I also needed to presence myself in moments big and small to get truly connected to who I am and what the fuck I'm doing here on this rock floating through space. Being present with myself before being present with others, and setting loving boundaries and sometimes just plain assertive boundaries is so important to becoming fully self-actualized. And the more and more I did that, the more and more I learned that my wisdom has a very profound depth to it. There is a saying I heard, but I forget where I heard it. But it goes, there is no depth without darkness, without shadow, without pain. There is no light. There is no pleasure. And my capacity for pleasure and light is so immense because I experienced a lot of shadows, a lot of pain, and a lot of struggles in life. And when I say that, I am not glorifying the struggle or being deep. Like, I'm not even ignoring the massive amount of privilege I have that comes with the struggles I experienced, right? And also, I want to say, I don't believe that being deep is actually better than being shallow. I think they're two totally different things, right? Depth requires emotional intelligence, the work of meaningful relationships, subject matter expertise in the area of the process of creation. It requires critical thinking, and depth requires reflection, which leads to a stronger sense of purpose and spiritual fulfillment. But the benefits of being shallow are higher adaptability and being able to pivot faster without overanalyzing, efficiency, stress reduction, because we don't dive deep into emotions or problems when we're shallow, right? So we experience less overwhelm when we're more shallow, and more social ease and enjoyment of spontaneity is more likely and more possible when you're more shallow. But during my 43rd year, in addition to realizing that I needed to go inward more, or to soften to notice all that could be noticed in my field of consciousness, I also realized how very deep I am and how that makes me complex and challenging and requires more work, but it also makes me so very wise. And I'm learning to balance that out with embracing the shallow more. And what does that look like for me? I've already studied pleasure, and we could keep going on and on with that, but embracing the shallow more looks like giving myself permission to enjoy life without overcommitting emotionally. Learning to enjoy more surface level conversations, which is really hard as someone with ADHD. I am impatient for people to finish shallow conversations. I have challenges with auditory comprehension and story memory, but I am learning to take my pleasure from this surface level fun now. And I feel like because of this depth that I have, I'm already so good at being deeply present with people, and I'm practiced at enjoying small pleasures, but sometimes I have a tendency to always be seeking the deeper life lessons. And I'm practicing trying to not do that as much. I mean, I don't resist the wisdom that wants to flow through me and make me its conduit, but I'm not actively seeking. I'm kind of like relaxing and allowing more around the lessons. Embracing the shallow more looks like saying yes to spontaneity more, which is actually quite a challenge for me. It's weird, right? Like, I'm a pro at spontaneous emergencies from my work in emergency medicine. I'm a pro at indulging in spontaneous things I want to try on a whim because ADHD and chasing dopamine. But the autistic traits in me that want routine to meet my high resourcing needs. And if I don't get that routine, I feel like I'm going to have a meltdown. So I'm practicing saying yes to more spontaneity, even if it disrupts my routine, which I don't know if you experience this, but if I disrupt my routine, like, I get all the physical symptoms, right? I get like acid reflux. I get cranky. I feel nauseous. I'm achy. There's like so much that goes into disrupting my basic needs routine in order to make sure my spoon reserves are full. And so that's kind of a big one for me, right? Embracing the shallow, being more spontaneous, which brings me to my next question for my reflection for my birthday year is, what surprised me the most about myself this past year? So for this one, I'm going to just like go into some quick bullet points, and then I'll like go a little bit deeper. And again, I'll probably be all over the map because this isn't fully scripted, which I do often to keep my ADHD self on track, because these podcast episodes would be like 2 hours long if I didn't have something to keep myself on the rails and to keep myself from like going down all the rabbit holes. But what surprised me the most about myself this past year was like how my friendships all deepened exponentially and my connections became so much more authentic this year. I was surprised by how I let myself be truly supported in my unmasked self, and how people can truly surprise me with how well they can know me and care for me. I was surprised by the nuances that I brought into my consciousness around my unique process. I was surprised about how introverted I've been and how I need to be intentional about getting out more and changing that. I was surprised that like in order to focus in school as a legit strategy, I actually need to be doing something else at the same time. Like, I know that's a common thing for people with ADHD. Like, if you're doodling, it could actually help you listen depending on who you are. I found other strategies that I'll get into that I noticed this year that really surprised me. And then it also surprised me that like there's actually so much pleasure in the embracing of the shallow and the spontaneity and how much it can deepen connections. That contrast from like starting off with some sort of like shallow connection and like letting that be something that happens consistently and often, like really can lead to such depth of connection. So what really surprised me about this past year, okay, so that was like kind of the overview, but like surprises, something that really surprised me was I said yes to going to Spain on a whim with a friend. But before I get into how that came to be, I want to like celebrate that I said yes to going on this trip just like weeks before we went. And I was going to go on this trip after a reunion in Philadelphia with some girlfriends during a time when I was actually still trying to like hit my stride at college. Again, I went to 6 different colleges and I kept failing out because I didn't have the accommodations I needed or strategies that worked for me to like see it through. And so I decided that like I could take this big reunion trip to Philadelphia and then I could go to Spain immediately after while still attending college online and while still coaching my clients around business and confidence and embodiment. And I just trusted that I would expand to meet my desires and travel and hold it all and that I would be capable. And of course, from making that decision, from being decisive about what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go, the universe gave me so much grace. And there was one part in the trip where I was feeling especially stretched, and it felt challenging for me to self-advocate for what I needed in order to be successful at school. And I took some time by myself away from the rest of my sisters at the reunion, and I kind of like went to go work in a corner at my friend's house. And my friends, they all left to go shopping, and while they were gone, out of the blue, my husband called me and told me everything that I didn't know I needed to hear in that moment to keep my spirits elevated. He said he loved me and that he was so proud of me for how I was working so hard to change my story on every level and how I was reclaiming my life in every area, not just for myself, but for my family. And he just so happened to call randomly at a time where I just really, really needed it. When I really needed him and his love and his words. And without being prompted, he was just so attuned and providing so much support and encouragement in that moment that I just started crying. And it happened that like I started crying at the moment my friends came back from shopping and they're like, "Are you okay?" And I was just like, "Yeah, these are happy tears." And like I turned my phone to my friends so they could see that like I was on FaceTime with my husband. And I was like, I just feel so seen and so supported. And in my 43rd year, there was just such a notable shift in being included for who I truly am and being authentically supported, like truly supported by so many people in my life. But I digress. And back to saying yes to Spain. So I may have shared this before, but if you don't know this about me, my clarity of decisions is usually razor sharp. I give a very quick yes or no, and I'm tuned in with what I do or don't want to do. But my friend and sister from another mister asked me if I would go with her to support her in a Play Big desire that was going to take place in Alicante, Spain. And the part of me that is a fierce stand for sisterhood was like, abso-fucking-lutely. And then the autistic part of me that knows that I'm a raging bitch if I don't get a lot of time to myself was like, but jet lag? But after a couple of days, I said yes to more spontaneity. And on this trip, there were definitely moments where I lost track of school deadlines with the time changes, and I needed to unexpectedly pull an all-nighter in Barcelona. And after the all-nighter, I actually got food poisoning that completely rocked my body all the way home on my flight from Barcelona to Miami. I was like hallucinating on the plane. I had like the chills and I would like fall asleep and then wake myself up by talking in my sleep. And then I wake up and as I was drifting off, I would think that I'm talking to somebody on the plane next to me. But it's all part of the plan that we didn't know we ordered, right? That spontaneity led to a new experience that was truly beautiful for me. When I went back to Miami, I went to my friend Candace's place in South Beach. I rolled into her house looking like a refugee. I was pale, sweaty, sick to my stomach, in excruciating back pain. I didn't even know what was going on with me, right? Like I was pretty sure it was food poisoning. But like people on the plane were looking at me like I had COVID. So I started to question it. But I definitely looked like I was patient zero for the zombie apocalypse virus or something like that. And I had so much stomach pain and so much back pain that like it hurt to walk. I was run down and I was crying in the airport as I navigated from checkpoint to checkpoint. And when I finally got to Candace's house after the Uber dropped me off, she received me into her beautiful home. She drew up a hot bath with candles, and I was so wrecked that I skipped plans to go out that night with her. I just had one night in Miami and I fell asleep for 14 hours at her place. My body was just like, we need the time and space to heal, so we're taking it. And while I was sleeping, my friend gave my husband updates on how I was doing because for the first time in my life, I didn't call him back when I said I would. And for the first time in my life, I think I was truly 100% in surrender, knowing that I was being taken care of by a very capable friend who truly knew me. Health is so incredibly important. And when we have to rely on others because we're struggling to meet our own basic needs, even if temporarily, it can show us who we truly are to each other. I am usually that strong friend that people need to check in on, but I had a total embodiment shift to have that experience, to be so held and supported. And my friend Candace told me she's never seen me like that ever. And she was wondering why I was even trying to talk or form sentences or use words when I got to her place, that it was so obvious that I should not be efforting in any way. And the next day when I woke up, I felt so much better. And we went to breakfast together where I got to connect with her on a deeper level. And we discovered at that breakfast that we're very similar in a very specific way, right? That we genuinely don't have preferences when it comes to the small stuff, right? So what do I mean by that? Like when you go to sit at a restaurant and someone is like, where do you want to sit? We're like, I don't care. And not from a place of like people pleaser energy or indecisive energy at all, but from like this place of like, there are infinite experiences in life unfolding, and I am open to having them all, the experience from the front row seat, the back row seat. So much of those choices we don't feel compelled to make because we know how we want to feel, and we will take ownership to genuinely enjoy all the experiences and feel how we want to feel. But when we do make a choice, it's important for those that love us and know us to recognize the significance and authority in that. Like you may have perceived behavior from us in the past, which you may have misinterpreted as being indecisive or people pleasing, but like really we take so much pleasure genuinely in going with the flow, and people can sometimes misinterpret that as smallness or again, being indecisive, when in truth, we just don't waste our energy on being controlling or making decisions that feel small or trivial to us when there's a buffet of experiences to have in life. And listen, if you're the type of person that is like, no, I have standards, I want the best of the best, I'm willing to work and control it to get that, or I don't even control it, I just magnetize it and that's how I get it, great. Like, I'm so happy for you. Everybody gets to have their own experience, right? And maybe it's the Pisces in us, but like we know in our fishy bones that like going with the current is so much more powerful than trying to swim against it. And there's so many different flavors in life just to experience, right? Now, back in my 42nd year, I had epiphanies around how people are usually afraid of me initiating big action. Like they're scared and they don't know what to think because they need more time to initiate, and they're more risk averse and their nervous systems need more time to like process big things, where that's just not me, right? Like I go right into it. And so 42, was all about healing the parts of my lived experience where I tried to step into my power and leadership. And because other people didn't have vision or needed more safety or security to prepare themselves for big change, sometimes they would police my behavior or invalidate me as the authority on my lived experience. And I really healed a lot around that and trusted that people who were truly uncomfortable with me and tried to put their discomfort on me. Well, at 42, I no longer took that on or was willing to leak my energy around people who weren't accustomed to my process. 43, on the other hand, was all about allowing people to support me in my unique creative process and in my leadership. It became about really embracing collaboration while staying true to my personal style of doing life and business. 43 was about switching my focus and really illuminating where I could allow people to align with my approach instead of being taken aback by people who are uncomfortable with or people who overtly try to control or devalue my unique approach. And the more I became unavailable for people policing my neurodivergent behavior, or the less I was available to take on their assessments of me from an uninformed place, the less frequently that started to occur in my reality. So 43 this past year was about communicating my process, which is not the same as over-explaining myself, right? Communicating my process was about being transparent around how I work best and inviting others to support me authentically so I could work even better. And something really beautiful started happening this year when I did that, right? The more and more I did that, oh my gosh, I gotta be careful because I feel like I'm gonna cry. The more and more I did that, the more people, without being prompted, started to advocate for me to have what I need for my unique process without me even prompting them. Did I say that already? Like without me even prompting them to, they started to advocate for what I needed to support me in these very specific ways that I needed, which if you're someone with invisible disabilities or cognitive differences, this is huge. To feel the people in your communities take on some of the work of advocacy. For me, it was such a weight lifted off of me. 43 was a lot of deep work in sacred, authentic embodiment. It involved more vulnerability than I've ever dove into around how I am, when I am, unmasked around my autistic traits, particularly with friends. For example, I have more self-knowledge from this past year around unmasked autistic aspects of myself where it just takes me much longer to emotionally process in some scenarios. And I've also noticed that I can inform friends when I am present, but I'm still processing so they don't think that I don't care or that I've abandoned them. I've learned and shared that I feel like little to no nostalgia, for example, compared to most of the people in my life. And further that I realized that like I used to pretend to feel nostalgia when I actually don't, as like a way that I masked. And so in my life, for example, when people, places, and things in relationships like die, I kind of just accept it as a part of life. And it would take a lot for me to express care in a way that actually felt like I was being caring to other people. Like I noticed I don't process loss like the majority of people around me do, and how quickly I move into acceptance and get present or future focused. And I can come across as unempathetic in those scenarios. Like I'll cry these deep primal moans for my dog that passed away, but I barely blink an eye when a friend decides that they no longer want to be friends with me. I'm just like, okay, that time is up in my life, time to move on, right? I'm very present and very future focused. I'm not very focused on the past. And I'm also a direct communicator. And those things can be like a deadly combination for trying to nurture and maintain relationships that aren't presently serving me, right? Because it makes it very easy for me to cut out relationships that aren't present because I don't feel nostalgic about them, right? Or necessarily believe that I need to maintain relationships just because of our past or our history together. I'm just like, okay, this segment is done. Okay, it's done. That's life. I accept it and know that, and time to move on. And this year, I've learned to be more vulnerable about my process, even my insecurities around my process. I remember I told one of my friends, I was like, I think I'm a sociopath because I don't feel anything about nostalgia. And then I learned more about it, talked to my therapist. I was vulnerable with my friends and I was like, this is what I'm discovering about myself. I'm very future focused or present focused. And friends that I've been vulnerable with about my process and my unique process have been so validating in beautiful ways. They've expressed gratitude for learning about how I'm not nostalgic or how I don't need time to think before taking action or my unique process. And my friends say that they feel closer to me because they feel like they understand me better. And yeah, I don't owe anybody an explanation about how I am the way I am, but if we socially speak different languages, to connect with people, you have to allow them to get to know you, especially if it's between neurodivergent people and neurotypical people, right? And that harmony and closeness in my friendships also led to me having so much more harmony and closeness with myself. And in that space, I have learned so much more about myself this year, especially in college. What a learning experience regarding how I work and learn in contrast to the traditional ways of working and learning, right? I learned that with my ADHD, to pay attention to listening to my audio textbook, in order to listen to it, I actually need to be doing something else at the same time. Like I said before, some people doodle to listen. To be able to comprehend and listen to my audio textbook, I either need to do branding design, graphic design, interior design, or fashion design. And so to get through my last few semesters, I really started trusting that part of my process. And while I was listening to my textbooks, I designed a whole damn Italian luxury shoe line that I'm actually planning on launching by the end of the year. And when I was designing all of the shoes for this luxury shoe line, I'm like, oh, I'm just going to do this and pleasurably explore it. And then I was done with it and I was like, this is a viable brand. I'm going to explore alternative revenue streams with it. And it's wild. It was so easy to channel it through me while I was learning because I was really trusting my process. And so that's a big thing that kind of surprised me that I learned this year as well. And then I also learned how much I have actually been introverted lately during this process of going back to college, right? Because specifically college has required a lot of my energy. So I've needed a lot of time to myself to regenerate my energy. And I noticed that I was taking so much time with myself that I actually wasn't getting out and socializing as much outside of my big trips during the year. And so I was surprised that as someone who, no matter how introverted I am, meaning I regain my energy by spending time alone with myself, I am still so social and outgoing, but I wasn't going out as much as I liked locally and connecting with people. I actually wasn't going out at all. But I realized I had to be really intentional about that. So I joined a sorority at my school and I went out to a meetup group for women locally in the little desert town where we currently live in for the first time in 2 years since we moved to New Mexico for my husband's work. I'm getting out and meeting people locally. And I also started intentionally connecting with my family around my family history and Italian and Sicilian culture. And I'm integrating that into the history of the brand I'm developing for, my shoe line, and I'm connecting with people around my desire for dual Italian and American citizenship. Now, I have a lot more questions in my journal, my birthday portal journal. I'm going to try to speed it up and not get so into story around it. But another question is what moments made me feel most alive, powerful, or in alignment? I think the moments where I connected truly with my desires around moving to Sicily and building a house there where I can host embodiment retreats. Anytime I was in my creative flow state as well, or in deep connection with my partner, my family, my friends, or my loved ones, I felt very alive and in my power. Also, whenever I let myself just say what was on my heart and my mind and let it ride, no matter who is activated or how, I have really been playing my own musical notes and just trusting that I will harmonize with the people who are meant to be a part of my life song. I really felt the most powerful when I followed, like, in complete trust, the nudges and urges about the next steps in my life that just seemed to make no sense at the time, right? Like when I really honored my timing. A big place I did this is with my rebranding and my website remodeling. It's happening very slowly. And typically I just want to get it done as fast as possible and not have any of my stuff be all over the internet digitally. But like I'm letting the parts that need to be messy so I can honor my time and capacity changes with school and with my client load. Okay, next question. What challenges did I overcome and what strengths did they reveal in me? So definitely getting into a rhythm at college. That was challenging. Defaulting to being an introvert and getting out more and overcoming that was a challenge. Shifting my focus to expand my consciousness around my ability to be unmasked and vulnerable and deeply supported by people from all areas in my life, that was a challenge. And the strengths that came from all of that were really the power of my own unique process. And of course, we knew authenticity creates connection, but it can also create allies and co-conspirators and advocates who can share some of life's heavy lifting with me now. And it doesn't take energy, it gives to me now. Like, before it used to take because I was always self-advocating and like educating people in my circle who didn't know even where to start with the work of understanding neurodiversity or ableism or the challenges of invisible disabilities or like what I'm going through or what I need. And now they like know how to advocate and how to really let me be the authority on my lived experience. And that has been huge. Question number 5, how did I grow in my business, relationships, and personal confidence? Ooh. I grew in really unexpected ways in my business. I relaunched this podcast in faith that I would have the capacity for it since I was getting the nudge to do it, right? I was just like, I'm just following the nudges. I launched my rebrand too, which feels so true for me. It's like a combination of editorial photography, which is like a nod to my journalism and NYC roots. It's influenced by my Mediterranean background and it's infused with the luxury wisdom and embodiment that like only a New York Italian American designer coach could exude. And I had a couple of private clients, like new private clients that I signed on when I didn't even advertise or announce that I had any openings. Like they just found me out through online and my podcast and they were like, I want to work with you. And like I really tapped into whether I wanted to work with them or not, right? Like I think early on in your business, you're just like, yeah, I got to work. I got to take on people. But like this year I was extra selective, not just because of my energy, but because I want to stay in integrity with my business. And so I said yes to some people and I turned down some like major contracts too. And also something at 43 that felt really beautiful is I really touched on and felt and started to express the embodiment of not just my wealthiest self, but my most loving, at peace, wise thought leader self who trusts that anything I have to say, whether it feels left field, radical, or inconsequential, that it's all what needs to be transmitted, that it's all part of the potency that is within me. And I love this next custom question for my birthday portal review, right? In what ways did I fully embody my Play Big Queen energy in this past year? At 43, I really was owning my wisdom in new ways and allowing people to be in my world on this journey with me and standing immovably for the standards I hold in my relationships. My husband and I have been doing this beautiful emotional check-in exercise that I created for some of my clients who are in relationships, and it's been working wonders for them. And so we started doing it and it's been working wonders for us in our relationship as well. My husband and I have very different communication styles, and with my auditory comprehension, it can be really challenging. And so these exercises that we've been using have been helping us understand each other on much deeper levels. And it's actually been so good as a communication tool that I've been thinking about sharing it the time to share it is not yet, but like it's a really good tool, and I'm going to share it. I've also deeply owned like the fierce and protective side of my love and how it shows up in my activism. I've inspired new levels of respect from people I'm in relationships with, and that has been a privilege to receive. I'm also doing like so much more regardless of whether I feel ready or not, right? I'm just going for it, but I'm also not willing to burn out. And if I notice that like burnout has crept up, I take my time to like fully take a sacred pause and recover. Also, not a lot of people know this about me, but I love going places in a plane, but I hate to fly because I actually have transportation trauma, and it's a real physical experience for me. But in my 43rd year, not only have I worked with a nutritionist and started my medication for ADHD, but I've also done more trauma therapy and EMDR therapy, and I've started seeing some results from that work. And my physical experience when I fly now has become so much more peaceful than it was previously. Okay, and then last question of this section, because I do it in a couple of different sections. What is one thing that I want to celebrate myself for right now? Really doing the things that I am called to do in life, love, and business, even when it feels hard or it doesn't make any damn sense. That's it. That's the flex. That's the celebration. And then for my birthday portal journaling, I go into like this section where I ask about questions about releasing and letting go. Like the first section is just like all about reflections. And then the second section is like, what am I releasing and letting go? And like the first question in this section is, what beliefs, habits, or patterns am I ready to release as I enter my 44th year? So a big belief that I'm ready to release is that if I maintain my moral compass or stand firm in my values, even when tempted to take shortcuts or avoid hard truths, especially in the coaching industry, that is going to be my demise in business. I know that we get to build businesses that are both ethical and wildly profitable. And there is still a twinge of doubt around that belief because I have suffered. I have been in survival mode for long periods of time in the past because of systemic ableism or being under-resourced or disenfranchised. And to reintegrate into the system in the past, I've had to compromise my values. I've had to reckon with the truth that it's a dog-eat-dog world in a lot of places, and to do things that I wasn't proud of doing to get what I wanted to get. And at 44, I'm releasing the belief completely that it has to be done that way. And I am adopting the belief that I get to stay in integrity as I grow, and that integrity is actually going to be the thing that makes my business thrive. A habit that I'm ready to release is being at a computer all day while I'm at college and taking care of my clients and connecting with friends online and then just doing my little dance breaks. Like I love embodiment exercises throughout the day, but the ADHD hyperactive side of me needs straight up gym time. And when I'm at college and I'm hyper focusing on computer tasks, like I find it very hard to like break that routine and switch tasks. And so that's something that I'm working on too. Like ADHD is like, it's all about management. And sometimes we go in and out of periods where we do a great job managing it. I used to be very athletic. I used to be into boxing, and like now it's just challenging for me to like go back to the gym regularly because I've got different things going on with my body at this age, right? Like it's challenging for me to tell when I push too hard at the gym because I genuinely feel fine lifting what I lift, but then I go home and a day or two later, I'm like almost immobile sometimes. So like I'm stepping in to this habit of like not just going to the gym consistently to exercise, but like to go to the gym consistently and do much less than I think that I need to do so I don't blow out my system and I can't go back, right? I am developing a new habit of going to the gym while I'm in classes during the semester. And I know that feels like a lot for me, but I also know that I can do it. Patterns that I am releasing are really around storytelling. Storytelling is like so important, and it's so tied to like so many people's cultural roots. And because a lot of social media platforms and how they function are inherently ableist, I find it challenging to share my story in my voice through the medium of social media. I've been at it for years. I'm studying it in college now. I've learned about it when I was working with entrepreneurs in the startup scene, and like my whole family has worked in marketing over the course of my lifetime. And then on top of that, I have legit challenges with my brain and story memory processing and recall. And so this is a pattern that I'm releasing, right? Where I overwork to share my story in a medium that wasn't designed for me. I don't get a lot of people engaging or like get to a place where it feels like this natural exchange where I'm connecting with people around it, even though I'm not exchanging with people. I know that people are connecting with it, but like there's not a reciprocal interaction happening as a result of how I tell stories. And then I'm kind of like in this loop where I'm not connecting with people through story. So this year, I've decided to change that pattern. I'm actually going to invest in help for that. And I already know who I want to work with around storytelling, but I'm going to be getting out of this pattern where I think I'm storytelling, but it's not actually like connecting with people, or I'm struggling to recall stories and like mention the parts that like people probably really want to hear, but I just forget to mention it. And so I kind of just like wind up defaulting to teaching mode instead of telling an actual story, because like I'm a great teacher, but like sometimes I struggle with telling stories, but that doesn't mean it's not a skill that I can't get great at, right? Like I'm not developing a story about not being good at stories. I'm just saying like I'm recognizing that this is a skill that needs some work. And my pattern was to just try to white knuckle it and try to figure it out myself. And for me, it's one of those things where I'm really great at assisting other people doing it in marketing or copywriting. But for me, it feels challenging. And so I'm going to get support around telling stories to connect with people and get support from someone who I trust my voice with genuinely. Okay, question 9. Where did I play small or hold back this year, and how can I shift that moving forward? Yeah, I think that was really like portrayed in my reflections from the year. Like I was playing small when it came to making like in real life connections, either locally or like going for volunteer positions, or just like going for what I wanted, like in real life, like maybe even like a collaboration that I care about, because I was just concerned about capacity, especially in my first year and semester of school, right? But like now I'm in a place where I'm definitely not holding back now. I'm applying for like a position with my sorority. I'm volunteering locally. I'm getting out from behind the keyboard. I'm connecting with people in real life more for my philanthropic efforts and for like creative collaborations that I want to have. Okay. Question 10. What am I forgiving myself for? What am I releasing that no longer serves me? I am forgiving myself for not taking the time to get to know myself sooner. That is one place where I experience grief, that I think a lot of neurodivergent people experience grief, right? For not knowing how to unmask sooner, for not being conscious of who I am and the factors that truly contribute to growth sooner. There's this like grief for a loss of time and possibility that a lot of neurodivergent people and people with invisible disabilities experience. And I'm releasing that grief. I'm releasing that grief fully because it no longer serves me. My time is now. All things are possible. There's plenty of time. And then my next questions in my birthday portal journal is, what are my intentions for 44? And the first question I ask myself is, what is my vision for this next year of my life? How do I want to feel at 45? Well, for 44, I want to feel stylish, devoted, even more in my knowing, even more taken care of, lighter. I want to feel lubricated in my joints and like when flowing from one energy segment to the next. And I want to smolder more. I want to smolder from my sexiness more. I'm a pro at smoldering and I've just forgotten it. Coming up on 44, like at 43, I already feel locked in, but by 45, I want to feel clicked in, if that makes sense. Okay, next question. What desires am I claiming for my 44th year, personally, professionally, and spiritually? Okay, personally, or physically, a consistent gym habit, a consistent massage habit. Like I definitely want gym and repair to be side by side. in real life connections and opportunities to volunteer or elevate my work. I want to write my Play Big Queen book manuscript. Like for my 44th birthday, I'm actually going to be driving to Denver at the end of the month. I'm taking like a little writer's retreat, part like restoration retreat, take baths in a clawfoot tub retreat, hang out with my girlfriends for brunch type of retreat. That's personal, but it also goes into the professional because I really want time to like write my Play Big Queen book manuscript. Keep putting out these life-changing podcast episodes, take on some more clients, sell out some more courses, and launch my shoe line and really activate the latent brilliance in women who are here, and we know they are here to change the world and how we do business. And this is a big desire. So I want to launch my shoe line, and I want to have Vogue do an article on it. That sounds big to say out loud, and I'll share more about the shoe line in the upcoming episodes. But I actually see the brand and the shoe line that I'm developing as a real opportunity to spread awareness about the history of Southern Italian and Sicilian women, while also donating some of the profits from the shoe sales to the cause for decriminalizing sex work. And so I think it would benefit the brand exponentially, naturally, if I could get Vogue to do an article on it. Spiritually, I want to elevate my creative expression and connect more with my roots and nature. Maybe start microdosing. And I want to extend the quiet time that I spend in the morning to like listen to myself a little bit longer before starting my day. Next question. How do I want to deepen my sense of embodiment, joy, and pleasure this year? I really want to do spinal flow. I want to do astrocartography. I've never actually had an Akashic record reading, and I have someone that I want to go to for that. I want to connect more to my ancestors, which is like part of my spiritual development too. I'd love to have more curated adventures with my hubby and friends that excite me and maybe even scare me a little bit, like hot air ballooning in Turkey or something. I definitely want to elevate my skincare routine, and I want to get back to more water experiences, especially since being in the desert. Like, water is so healing for me. I miss the ocean. And I want to take a Mediterranean vacation with my little cauldron of witch friends that call ourselves the Hexies. Okay, next question. What kind of relationships do I want to nurture and attract? I am so grateful to have so many friends that are supporting me in such authentic ways at this point in my life, but I'd love more growth-orientated and value-aligned relationships where I can connect with women who thrive on honest and direct feedback, where we could like really just like say whatever we want to say and trust each other to like say the things that are super direct that need to be said. I want creative partnerships and some like play big accountability sisters. It's interesting because I run an accountability group, but I need my own place to go for expansion accountability as well. I don't even think that like I'm interested in a paid container for right now. With school, I want something more organic and natural, if that makes sense, where we cheer each other on. And I'm so fortunate to already have like some women in my life like this, but I'm like, yes, this is beautiful. More, please. Okay, next question. What legacy am I focused on building this year? How does this align with my long-term vision? I am really focused on building my women's empowerment legacy where neurodivergent women and women with invisible disabilities are activated in their brilliance. I am working on my personal brand legacy, building a business that stands for neurodiverse affirming coaching, ethical selling, and custom support where clients are treated like the authorities on their lived experiences. And I'm cultivating a leadership style that empowers others and reshapes the industry in which I channel my own brilliance through. I'm also building my creative and family legacy, which is going to blend like rebel and luxury brand archetypes in new ways, which is actually challenging to pull off, but I'm doing in the shoe line that I'm developing as well. And this aligns with my long-term vision and mission, where I'm focusing in on empowering at least 10,000 women who are neurodivergent, who have invisible disabilities, to step into their brilliance and create the impact-driven businesses and change that we know they are meant to create in the world, either as entrepreneurs, business owners, leaders, or professionals. I talk more about that mission at the end of my podcast episode. You can listen till the end if you want to hear the whole vision, but like all of this legacy building is focused on the positive changes I am working towards making with the women who are looking to own their brilliance and show the world a different way of working, living, and being. What does playing even bigger look like for me at 44? So for me, it's going to look like being live in person more at my own events or at other people's events, collaborating with people I respect and admire, asking for people to support me in my launches for the shoe line and my courses and my programs and my other big business goals. Maybe going on some dates with some new potential business besties who are completely complimentary with me, and being so open about what my desires are, from like getting better at storytelling to like having a feature done on me at Vogue. Sharing the desires for collective impact and personal impact are going to be things that I am going to be doing to play even bigger at 44. Okay, what is my word or theme for this year and why? Okay, my theme for this year has already been established. It's Let It Bang. It's from a song. It has a lot of energy behind it, and it's like a phrase that helps me personally embody this energy of surrender to explosive brilliance that is about to land in people's laps and make some noise. And it reminds me to let my brilliance go full force out into the world. Just let it bang. It's going to be okay. Now I'm going to start to wrap the episode here, but in my journal, I go deeper into my commitments to self, like how am I going to prioritize my well-being and vitality, and what boundaries am I going to strengthen, or how am I going to do self-celebration rituals throughout the year? Like, these are all things that I can share also in another episode. We have a whole year of me being 44 together where I can share this with you as we go. But as we start to wrap up the longest podcast episode I have done to date, I want to remind you that for the month of March, I'm doing fundraising to help end period poverty this Women's History Month. My sorority at Arizona State University has teamed up with period.org. And if you go to the link in the show notes, you can buy period products that are reusable or disposable, and they will get donated to menstruators in need throughout the US and the world. The link in the show notes is for you to donate from a wish list that has a direct impact on period poverty and ensures more people will have what they need during their monthly cycle. If this is your first time hearing about period poverty refers to the lack of access to menstrual products, hygiene facilities, education, and resources needed to manage menstruation safely and with dignity. It affects people who menstruate, particularly those in low-income communities, leading to issues such as limited access to pads, tampons, menstrual cups, or other hygiene products, lack of clean water, sanitation, and private restrooms, stigma and shame around menstruation every month, missed school or work due to inadequate period management. This month, I want to give a shout out and a big thank you to Kayla Francis and a couple anonymous donors who have already kicked off our donations by being some of the first to donate to end period poverty. The release date of this recording is March 10th. We will be doing this fundraiser all the way until April. If you donate at the link in the show notes and send me an email to info@playbigqueen.com telling me that you've donated and putting your full name in the email body, I will shout you out for the next episode. This is a chance to make a real difference in the lives of women, especially during a time where women's rights are experiencing a setback. But empowered women truly do empower women. So if you are in a position to donate, please donate. And if not, please share the link with other people and let them know that we are doing this fundraiser. I would be so grateful if you were my period birthday angel this month. If I haven't said it enough before, I'm saying it loud and clear now. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for listening to this part of the episode. Your time is so valuable, and I'm truly striving to give you all I've got, knowing that you, my Play Big Queen, are going to squeeze all the juice you can from everything I share. I'm sending love to you from across the podcast airways. Take exquisite care of yourself because you deserve it, and play Big Queen.
Okay, that's it for this episode of the Play Big Queen podcast. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me. As always, eat the fruit, spit out the seeds, take what nourished you, keep what resonated for you, and leave the rest, because ultimately, you know best. This episode is over until next time, but we can keep this thing going. Go to xxxkatebailey.com, scroll to the bottom where it says join our community, and get on the email list to get all the juicy details about all my offerings and where Play Big Queens play together online, on social media, and in person. We've got a tight community of women claiming their boldest desires, celebrating wins, playing all out, fiercely standing for each other, and going higher together. Go to xxxkatebailey.com, put in your email address, and confirm your subscription. Once you're in, you'll get all the juicy guides, tips, and inspirations, and you get notified first about all the offers we have for all the big stuff we're doing over here. Go to xxxkatebailey.com to stay in the loop. That's xxxkatebailey.com. If you like what you heard in this podcast, subscribe, share it with your friends. And if you got something from this, I would appreciate some reviews and ratings. When you take the time to review the podcast, it helps our podcast get out to more women who need it. If you haven't already, head over to iTunes and Spotify and show Play Big Queen some love. Also, I want you to know that my door is always open, and I will always make space for you to be heard and to honor your experience. The views expressed in this podcast are through the lens of my personal identity and my own lived experience. I am a European mix, Mediterranean mutt who is an Italian, Sicilian, cis heterosexual woman born in New York, experiencing the world in a white body as a multiply neurodivergent who lives in a neurodiverse and racially blended family. And like everyone else, my one single perspective comes with its own limitations. I have done personal and professional work around anti-racism, diversity, equity, equality, and inclusion. I am not a therapist or doctor, and any coaching or advice cannot take the place of professional medical, mental health, or healing help. However, that being said, what happens in my work is often a very powerful, additional, supplemental, or alternative way to heal around identity work, mindset, and emotional wellness. Although I am not a licensed therapist, it is worth noting that in addition to being a mentor, I am trained and certified in emergency medicine and response. I have rendered care to over 20,000 patients in the course of my career. I have taught over 15,000 students, many of which had learning disabilities that were undiagnosed and came from diverse cultural backgrounds. I was also a private health college adjunct professor who was responsible for training medical professionals on how to respond to trauma and behavioral emergencies. If you approach me with any concern, you will be met with professionalism, compassion, tact, understanding, support, and a readiness and a willingness to advocate for your needs. That being said, sometimes I just get it wrong. I am a human being on my own growth journey after all. When I mess up, I'm always available for a courageous and crucial conversation that makes way for growth and healing. Your experience and voice matters to me. I sincerely welcome any feedback you feel called to share. You can email your comments or concerns to info@playbigqueen.com, knowing that I am open to having any and all crucial conversations needed. Okay, remember, you are brilliant. Celebrate yourself, value your own unique way, and honor your own timing, because you can totally create a life and business that feels good and is successful on your terms. Remember to release expectations of what you think your play big process should look like, and be willing to do the work that needs to be done to play big. But most of all, when you come face to face with your boldest desires, remember to trust yourself and play big, queen. Hi, queen. I see you're in it for the long game. If you reach this part of the podcast episode, it means you're interested in learning more about my work, my values, my mission, and my community. So let's go deeper together. I am here to activate neurodivergent women to play bigger and to show you that you are so capable of doing big things, and that if you value your own unique way and honor your own timing, you will learn to receive your boldest desires and so much more. In my world, what makes you different is valued, celebrated, honored, and welcome. I welcome all who identify as female and non-binary folk in my Play Big Queens community. We believe in and support LGBTQIA+2S, Black Lives Matter, women's and pro-choice rights, and obviously intersectional identities, including disabilities, neurodivergence, and religious beliefs. Personally, I am pro-sex worker rights, pro-Palestinian liberation, against Islamophobia, and against anti-Semitism, and I'm also against any cult-like religions that use beliefs as an excuse to indoctrinate people into abusive, autocratic systems. Like many neurodivergent people, we have big hearts and a strong sense of social justice around here. You are encouraged to stay and play in our Play Big Queen community if you share these values. For those who find the word queen does not resonate, perhaps because of imperial associations, the Play Big Self archetype can take any form, and the invitation and activation remains the same. To learn to embody your Play Big Self, to operate from love instead of fear, to go on a Play Big journey in community because you know that no Play Big queen can truly play big alone. To decide to cultivate the courage to use your voice, unmask, reclaim, embrace, and embody your brilliance, and create a life and business that works with the unique way that you work. Through this work, you will come to know the truth of your brilliance deeply. And as you come to know your authentic self, more and more will begin to open up for you. Knowing your unique brilliance will lead to great success and true belonging. In this world, we take the pressure off and learn to step off the traditional path so you can blaze your own trail. My mission is to get you motivated, inspired, and equipped to get into massive action and go on your very own Play Big journey. My mission is to empower at least 10,000 women to fully step into their Play Big self by offering healing, transformative, inclusive, and neurodiverse affirming coaching and content. Through innovative coaching programs, courses, and masterclasses, we provide the tools, support, sustainability, and community needed to help each woman embrace her unique path to confidence, success, and meaningful impact. If just 10,000 women with invisible disabilities and their allies were empowered with neurodiverse affirming and inclusive communication to express their unique brilliance, step into their authority and autonomy, and lead, the world would experience a profound shift towards inclusivity, innovation, and empathy. These women would break through societal limitations, modeling resilience, creativity, and strength of diversity. Their voices and perspectives, often shaped by unique experiences with challenges and perseverance, would redefine business leadership, inspire systemic change, and create spaces where diverse ways of thinking are not just accepted, but celebrated. Industries and communities would become more accessible and inclusive, with practices that honor varied ways of working, communicating, and achieving. This change would ripple into every area of life and society. Workplaces would become more adaptable, offering a culture of respect for individual strengths. Healthcare and education systems would improve, centering accessibility and compassion in their approaches, and policies would evolve to better support those with invisible challenges, benefiting society as a whole. So many women with so much potential are shrinking in the face of their own brilliance, just sitting on the sidelines waiting for permission instead of getting in the game. The activation of the latent potential in these women, their empowerment, making them visible, would inspire others, reduce stigma around invisible disabilities, and encourage everyone to lead authentically. Their successes will light the way for countless more women to rise, creating a culture of true diversity where every person feels valued, included, and emboldened to contribute their brilliance and lead with it. If you know you are ready for more clarity, confidence, and you want to embody your Play Big self and be supported around creating the big vision for your life and business, then send me an email at info@playbigqueen.com telling me why this work is so important for you, and we can explore opportunities to work together and make your Play Big dreams a reality.